Finnish mobile studio Nitro Games could lay off over half of its workforce in an attempt to reduce operating costs, as is required by Finnish law. The Heroes of Warland developer has entered into cooperation negotiations with Steve, and revealed it could cut a maximum of 30 permanent positions. Nitro employed 51 people as of December last year, but might soon be left with as little as 21 full-time workers. The negotiations start on 25 February 2019, and are estimated to last 6 weeks. Reads a company statement. The negotiations concern possible terminations, layoffs, reduction of contracts of employment to part-time contracts, combinations and restructuring of functions and duties. The results are planned to be accomplished during the first half of 2019. The news comes after company CEO Jussi Hinen said it would have to take action in 2019 following some disappointing financial results, which saw full-year profits tumble and Heroes of Warland struggle to pull in significant revenues. Bungie ended its partnership with Activision ahead of schedule last month, taking ownership of the publishing rights. A Destiny 2 into the process. Now, in Activision Blizzard's quarterly earnings call, transcribed by Seeking Alpha, Activision CEO Kelly Johnson has shed some light on the breakup from Activision's point of view, calling attention to its ownership views and missed financial expectations that led up to the mutual decision to call the partnership off. He says that Activision itself was showing concern about Destiny's future given a few other factors, and when the company learned that Bungie was willing to acquire the publishing rights for the game, a deal was forged. Johnson said that, before that point, Activision was concerned about ongoing Destiny support, tying up one of our scarcest resources, which is developer time, since it had internal teams supplementing Bungie's own development work. On top of that, Johnson says that the Destiny intellectual property rights themselves were owned by Bungie, not Activision, which makes it difficult for the company to boost the franchise in the way it does with properties it itself owns. Controlling the underlying IP gives us the chance to move with new experiences and new engagement models, which also come with new streams and of course structurally higher economics when you own the IP, says Johnson. At the same time, Johnson says that Destiny underperformed in the long run, and was not meeting Activision's financial expectations. He notes that this occurred despite Destiny 2 being highly critically acclaimed, high-quality content. The company, he explains, did not foresee the game being one of its big earners in the upcoming fiscal year. Johnson's earlier comments about developer time being one of Activision's scarcest resources is something reflected through Activision Blizzard's latest earnings report. The company announced that it would be reducing its workforce by an overall 8%, something that will be accomplished by reducing certain non-development and administrative-related costs across our business, in order to invest more in development for our biggest internally owned franchises. That 8% reduction ultimately sees an estimated 800 employees laid off. Metroidvania. What image did that world create in your mind? Super Metroid, Castlevania, Symphony of the Night are a newer title from an independent developer, like Chasm or Axiom Verge, 1986, X Metroid, and its SNES sequel. In particular, are touchstone titles in what has now unquestionably become its own genre. The first in the series introduced many console gamers to the idea of a large, explorable 2D platforming world. In 1994, Super Metroid refined that gameplay immensely, while adding depth to storytelling. 3 years after that, Symphony of the Night expanded this formula in all directions, adding both complexity and depth at every turn. First off, I did not like the state of action games at the time, says Koji Igarashi, when asked where 1997 as Symphony of the Night came from. Titles divided into discrete stages were tending to get more and more difficult, leading to a situation where good players quickly finished them and beginners were no longer getting their money's worth. There was also the fact that the people on our team, including myself, really liked The Legend of Zelda, so we wanted to create a game in that style. In retrospect, it's little surprise that this game launched a genre. It was a clear attempt to break away and create a holistically enjoyable game for a wide audience. The result worked too well to remain unique. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Though retro game fans can point out any number of similar titles, Igarashi and his team arrived at a functional, repeatable design, and Symphony of the Night came quickly enough on the heels of the acclaimed Super Metroid that it could become entrenched as a formula. I think it was not until Symphony of the Night and its sequels melded, Super Metroid and Castlevania, that the classification narrowed to mean something like side-scrolling action adventures with obstacles in a continuous map that you can surmount only after finding the requisite items and backtracking, says Tom Happ, whose upcoming Axiom Verge is one of the most promising new titles in the genre. The next turning point for the Metroidvania was the seminal 2000 and indie title Cave Story, created by Daisuke Pixel Harmonian all on his own. It was not just a highly creative evolution of the genre, and Maya's ethos of building the game by himself made it a title that is inextricably linked with the rise of the indie movement, and the game's art and design have proved as influential as Maya's DIY production style. Cave Story 2009 as Shadow Complex, developed by Cheer Entertainment for Microsoft, it's also worth mentioning its massive commercial success as the console market for independently developed games began to take off, showed that the genre had a viable future. That's not the only reason it's notable. One moment that always stood out to me was when Donald Mustard said, to you, no less, that Super Metroid was the pinnacle of 2D game design. I kind of feel that was the first moment somebody really tried intentionally to make a Metroidvania, rather than just an action-adventure with aspects of Super Metroid, a Symphony of the Night. Happ says, referencing my 2009 interview with the Shadow Complex Creative Lab. Now that it's an entrenched genre, developers are trying to capture the essence of the Metroidvania and to extend it further. I spoke to a number of them to find out why and how they are doing it. My first stop was to ask these developers, what makes the genre so enduring? Why does it fascinate today's independent teams? After all, it's been a niche for years and years. It's only recently, post-indie boom, that the number of games exploded. The concept is universal, declares Eric Umenhofer, developer of Tempest. James Petrucci, of Chasm developer Discord Games, agrees. I think the core mechanics are timeless. Exploration, character improvement, platforming, and combat. Chasm, I figure it's the excitement of enjoying the adventure, mixed with gameplay that's easy to get comfortable with. I think the exploration element makes you feel like you are moving the story along yourself a lot better than with titles divided into stages. And I think having character growth elements allows gamers to enjoy the story right up to the end. says Igarashi. When discussing the genre's appeal, platformers have always been an easy, upfront genre to get into, compounded to those simple mechanics. The addition of backtracking, upgrading, power-upping and accessing new areas adds a lot of spice to how the adventure opens itself up for the player, giving him the impression, even if it's a false one, of being inside a very big context that's ready to be explored in a multitude of ways, says Alonso Martin, developer of Hard Forth. Alicia, you are the story, you are the adventure. It is up to you to discover where to go and unearth the mysteries of the world you are stuck in.